So I was just having my morning talk with myself. I wonder how many of us, how many of us talk who live alone talk to ourselves, particularly in the morning. And it's still quiet. None of my neighbors are up. It's about 7 o'clock. I've been up since 6 because my dog wakes me at 5:45 to let her out, and then she goes outside and sleeps on her outside bed. It's There's a lot going on in the world, and I was actually, I live in Mexico, and I'm grateful. Mexico doesn't have any wars, and I don't know that Mexico's been invaded quite a bit over its history. Um, the last was, I think, was around 1848, which was the United States. It's when they managed to have a war in which a huge portion, I would think almost the upper third of Mexico was taken over by the United States, which is now the southwestern part of the United States. And there's some serious wars. These guys have nuclear weapons, and they don't seem to. And it reminded me when I was in my 20s of the Cuban Missile Crisis when I was living in New York. This is actually going to be about aloneness, because I've been dealing with aloneness the last few days and what it means to be alone, which I think we all are all the time. It's just that, in fact, I believe that most of us, our entire lives are about not dealing with the aloneness of what it is to be human, and not only what it is to be human, but to be aware of our lives, to be aware of birth and to be aware of death. And I think the more alone a person is, the more they're surrounded by people. When I look at any performer who's like a comedian or a singer who's not part of a band, even a band, I said, boy, these people must be really, really afraid of being alone. They've got to have thousands of people. And not only when they're not performing, they always have an entourage. They have, managers and personal assistants, and we can't even begin to imagine. It's a lot. And I really enjoy living alone, quite frankly. I really do. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy keeping my own time. I enjoy that I don't have to take care of anybody except myself and my dog, which is actually quite a lot. Turns out I'm very high maintenance and my dog is higher maintenance. But I would say that those of us, well, of any age, I think that when people start rattling bombs, you go, oh, this could affect my life. This could affect my future. I have some very wild ideas. I personally believe there's going to come a point where capitalist countries like the United States, are going to have to offer a universal income. Because if they're going to replace all the jobs with AI and other kinds of robots, what are you going to do with all these people? Schools only came about because child labor laws came along. They said, hey, we can't have kids in the mines anymore. This is terrible. We shouldn't use children that way. So all these kids were hanging out on street corners, getting into trouble. So, oh my God, we've got to educate the children, get them out of trouble. They're on the streets. And the first teachers were ministers. This is why all those beating and switches and, Jesus in the Bible and the Bible and the Bible and the Bible. That's how schools were formed for children in the United States. I don't know what happened in the rest of the world. It went on for quite a long time. So, what will come of this? Because survival is in our nature. I want to survive. Going back to aloneness, when I was living alone, in my late teens, I moved to the village and I had a whole bunch of adventures, and eventually I had my own apartment there. And actually, the way I got my apartment was I was a waitress at the Rienzi Cafe on McDougal Street. My apartment was around the corner on Minetta Lane, so I walked to work. And one day, Edie Gourmet and Steve Gourmet came in with a bunch of people who were songwriters, and that was Jerry Goffin and Carole King were among them. And it turned out that Carole King, somebody said to me, oh, they're looking for a place in the village. They'd like to have an apartment in New York. And I said, oh, I have a place place around the corner, but I don't have the money to rent it. The rent at that time was extraordinarily high. I think it was like $200 a month, which is a lot of money in 1962 or 1961, I think this was, because 62 is when the Cuban Missile Crisis happened. 61. So I guess we walked around the corner and they said, yeah. So they gave me the money for a deposit. And they basically, I don't think they made them sign the lease. I signed the lease. And they dropped in once in a while and used the place. They had keys, but they didn't do it often. It's like one of those dreams. Oh, I'd love to have a little, pied-à-terre in another, because they lived in New Jersey. And they worked in New York. But, in the end, they went home to their kids. That was my Carol. With Carole King, I have two other things to say. I actually showed her first chords on a guitar and how to smoke marijuana. I don't know if she still does or not. I haven't seen her in probably 40 years after we both moved to California. So this is what I knew about my life. I always wanted to be a writer. Now, what I didn't really know is being a writer is like one of the loneliest careers you could ever decide you want for yourself, because generally most writers write alone and you don't want to be disturbed. And like Jerry Seinfeld always said, all he ever wanted was to be left alone. Right. Except he wanted to be left alone as a star with millions of dollars and millions of followers. But apparently he's famously rude to people who say things like, "Can I take your picture?" Maybe he's not rude. Maybe he has good boundaries. So this aloneness would occasionally come to me on nights that I wasn't working, and I would just dash out to McDougal Street to the Rienzi to hang out in the coffee shop, or across the street to the Gaslight and listen to Bobby Dylan and other musicians, and or the Kettle of Fish. I couldn't really bear to be alone. It's interesting. And at that time, I had just begun to start to write. Just begun. I'd written a couple of short stories in high school, and one had actually been published in some now long defunct magazine. And I did outgrow that to a certain extent, which is that I started writing plays. And the great thing about plays, there's a lot of great things about plays, by the way, is they involve other people. And you have a director, you have actors, you have lighting people, you have a producer. And it's very intense. The other thing about plays, it's an ephemeral thing. If you were not in the audience that night to see that play, when that curtain goes down, even if you come back the next night, you will see a different play, because it's human. And humans, even if we're really trained like dogs to repeat the same thing over and over again, there's going to be a change. There's going to be a nuance. Maybe a light's going to blow out. Or once I was in a play Dustin Hoffman was in, and he had to throw a can of soda into the sink, and the can of soda exploded. During the performance. I'm sure it didn't explode the next night. Actually, he took the can, put his finger over the hole, and he gave it to somebody in the first row and said, "Could you hold this, please?" So he broke the fourth wall. Magic. Magic. Believing in magic. Johnny Sebastian wrote, "Believing in magic." So I think that every single person who does a YouTube channel, myself included, is saying, "Look at me, look at me." And if you are like me, older and retired, you're also saying, "Look at me, I still count." I still count. I'm still here. I'm still here. And if you're 84, going to be 85, and there's some people who are in their 90s doing YouTube videos. We're basically, I think, making videos for when we're not here. Remembrance videos. Of course, the YouTube channels do get taken down after a certain point if you don't publish. And they actually now send you emails saying, "When would you like us to close your emails?" So, whoa, planning ahead. I'm going like, like 1 year after I stopped posting. It is the nature of being human is to be alone. And that is our greatest challenge. Our greatest challenge is, can I be alone? And what price am I willing to pay if I can't be alone? People who are in unhappy and even abusive relationships. And I know that abusive relationships are people's brainwaves have been trained. That's the other thing about us. We are like animals. We like dogs. You can't really train a cat too well. But damn it, you can train a dog and you can train a horse. You can train them. And you can train them to do things that hurt them. That hurt them. Things to jump high when you're a couple of 1,000 pounds. It's hard, man. It's hard. And you can, and we are the same. And we are the same. We can be trained to do things that are harmful to us. We are habituated. Just like you learned at a very young age how to tie your shoes, you still know how to do it today, even if you have not worn tie-on shoes for like 40 years. You know how to tie your shoes. So we have to be careful that the habits that we learn, the patterns that we learn, are helpful and don't hurt us. But mainly, if you can learn to live with yourself alone, then you have achieved what, monks go off and study for years, priests and nuns, people in the religious, who have religious callings and non-religious callings, philosophical callings. They go off. What are they trying to learn? To be in the silence, to be in the silence. So I haven't mastered that, by the way. I don't know if I will, but I'm going through it now. I'm not ignoring it. I'm going through it now, the aloneness, eating alone, taking myself out to restaurants alone. I'm kind of introverted, which is probably some other way of saying I'm, hiding from something. But I'm pushing myself out into the world. And also, for now, I'm not writing. So you'll probably be hearing more from me. It's okay. It's okay.